for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months in my little ideas file that I keep for solo shows for the podcast, right? I come up with an idea and I'm like, okay, I think I could talk about that. So for months, I have had a bullet point in that list that reads, the intersection of your talents is the key to unlocking your marketing magic. And about halfway through my conversation with Amanda Dudzik today, I all of a sudden thought of that little lonely bullet point that has been sitting there being like waiting patiently to be made into a podcast episode. And then Amanda came on and essentially illustrated exactly what I was talking about and said it better than I ever could have. So Amanda is a portrait photographer based outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. She joined me today to have a conversation about the way that the intersection of her skill and talent as a hair and makeup artist and her work as a photographer, she was sort of running these two parallel businesses for years. And, you know, the hair and makeup business was going well. And if you end up seeing video of her, you'll see that she knows her stuff. But the photography business was kind of limping along. It was making her a few $1,000s a year. It was essentially a glorified hobby. And she wasn't loving what she was doing. She wasn't getting the right clients, like all of those different things. And at some point, she stopped trying to keep her businesses and her talents separate and put into like perfect silos. And instead, she said, you know what? I'm good at both of these things. I'm going to blend them together. And ever since then, things have exploded for her. And so I want you to listen to this episode today. You're probably not a hair and makeup artist. Maybe you could be. Maybe you aspire to add that to your repertoire, which is great. Amanda's got some good info for that as well. But regardless, I promise you that you have other talents outside of photography that may not be as clearly and obviously linked as Amanda's two talents are, but you've got talents that you can combine in a way that will make everything about your business work, feel, make money, etc. All of those things will be better. And so I want you to sort of keep your mind wide open about all of that as you're listening today. I know you're going to enjoy this one.
Welcome to This Can't Be That Hard. My name is Anami Tonkin, and I help photographers run profitable, sustainable businesses that they love. Each week on the podcast, I cover simple, actionable strategies and systems that photographers at every level of experience can use to earn more money in a more sustainable way. Running a photography business doesn't have to be that hard. You can do it, and I can show you how.
Amanda, welcome to This Can't Be That Hard. It is lovely to finally get to sort of meet you over a video call. We've been going back and forth, and I'm really excited for today's conversation. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I'm so excited to be here. I've been listening to you for quite a while, and it's nice to talk to you sort of face-to-face.
Yeah, kind of. It's the next best thing. And we're not too far down the road. We, in theory, could meet in person one of these days relatively easily. So just
right across the state.
I was going to say, I'll be over to go to IKEA in Charlotte at some point, no question. So before we dive in, I would love you to just kind of give everybody a little background on who you are, what kind of work you do, and then I guess you could kind of just dive into your story a little bit because it's a good one.
Okay, so my name is Amanda Dudzik. I am in Weddington, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Charlotte. I am a master hairstylist and makeup artist. I've been doing hair since 1998, which makes me kind of old, and that's okay. That is my first career. I love hair and makeup. I've been able to do some really cool things with that, and Fashion Week and photo shoots and TV and lots of cool stuff with that. I picked up a camera about 8 years ago after the birth, or right before my second child was born. And I think my husband thought that maybe it would save him money from me paying for photo shoots for the babies all the time. And it was the exact opposite, as we all know. Yeah, right. And so I actually used to work for a salon. And 6 years ago, I decided to leave the salon and open my own business and, take the leap of faith and do my own thing. So I have my own salon, and then I really used that time to focus on my photography business as well.
Nice.
So for the last 6 years, I have been running 2 separate businesses at the same time. Wow. And I used to try to keep them separate, and I used to try to be the photographer and then be the, hairstylist and makeup artist. And I had, the epiphany moment one day that I should be combining the two. After a few of my photographer friends were like, you're really stupid not to do hair and makeup for your clients as well. Instead of forcing them to figure it out, you should be offering that service as well. So I decided to give it a shot, and it worked out beautifully, and the client was very happy. And so the rest is history. And I have a beautiful studio in my home, and I do all three services for my studio clients. They get a hairstyle, full makeup application, and then we shoot in the studio.
Amazing.
Last 3.5, 4 years, I would say.
Yeah. I really do think that when we start our businesses, and I think this is normal and natural, we start a business, especially if we're new to starting businesses, and we say, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to sort of look around and see what other people are doing, people I perceive to know what they're doing, or they seem to be successful, and I'm going to more or less imitate that, right? So I'm just going to try and copy and paste what is happening and what seems to be working for them into my own business. And I think that it's not the worst way to start out, because there's probably some kernel of truth in there, but it is impossible to see all the ins and outs of a business, obviously, unless you're like that person is your hired mentor. You're really making a guess at a lot of the stuff. And when it comes right down to it, being a carbon copy of someone else or trying to run a carbon copy of someone else's business, it just sort of dilutes the potency of whatever it is that they're doing that's working. And I really do think that the magic formula for kind of standing out in the best way is to find the intersections of your talents and your passions. If yours is such a great and sort of like, oh man, I can't do hair and makeup to save my life, but to have that complementary set of skills and to, blend it together. I think, to your point, your photographer friends were like, duh, it's really obvious. But sometimes the most obvious things when they're right in front of us are hard to see. But I do believe that like anyone has that. I think that in my photography business, my intersection of talents really is that I am really good at getting my job done really quickly, and also like making really good light banter with parents at the same time. Like I'm good at managing their kids. I'm good at keeping them happy, and we're in and out pretty fast. And for my target clients, that's ideal. It's like, it's easy, it's quick, it's painless, whatever. That's not everybody's business model, but like I have leaned into that intersection. So I want to go back to what you were doing before you sort of, pre 3 or 4 years ago when you weren't offering hair and makeup to your photography clients. Tell me more about your photography business then and what was working and what wasn't working.
Well, I was your typical shoot and burn photographer. I did not know how to price myself, as most of us do not when we first get started.
Sure.
So I was charging too little for too much. And I was, staying up all night editing, and I did tons of families and newborns and events and cake smash, and literally what anyone wanted to hire me for, I was game to try it. And in the beginning, I think that that's fantastic because you need to try everything to understand what you truly, what lights you up, what makes you happy, and what you can't wait to get home to edit. And for me, that was never happening with families and little kids and the babies and whatnot. My kids were already a little older at that point. And any child that was younger than them stressed me out.
Yeah.
Not used to dealing with the babies anymore sometimes. But what did light me up was the senior pictures because I was working with one person, and I was able to really focus on them and the posing and everything on that one person, and that filled me up. And I agreed to do headshots for someone, and I enjoyed that as well. And I thought, wow, these are pictures that are really going to help this person make a living. Like that excited me too, because they need that. Like that's a necessary thing. But I slowly realized that I was not meant to be a family photographer. I already knew I wasn't going to be a wedding photographer because that was weekends away from my children, and people are not their best on that day typically. So I already knew I didn't want to do that. But like I said, I tried newborns. I tried everything. Every genre that I can think of at the moment, other than birds and landscapes,
right?
I gave it a shot, and I wasn't making enough money doing that way. I was meeting people at a field, meeting people at a park, the typical things. And it was just very exhausting and unfulfilling. And that was when I kind of started thinking, okay, and you have to work every weekend, usually with families. So that was kind of when it started to sink in that maybe this is not the right path to take, and that maybe I should start listening to my friends and potentially adding women's portraiture to the repertoire. And that quickly became the repertoire.
Right. And I imagine that in your beauty industry business, you are are you working with mostly women?
All women. Mm-hmm.
So you have that banter, that relationship, that sort of insight into what their deep-seated hopes and dreams and fears and like all those things, like that client inside and out.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about figuring out how to meld those two things. Did it happen all at once? Was it like you tried something, tell me more.
I definitely think so I spend probably about an hour with each client before the shoot doing their hair and makeup. That hour is magic for me. That hour is crucial. I've had clients that will book and they say they don't need hair and makeup. So they just come in and we immediately, get to it. And there's something missing on those shoots. There's definitely a lack there. But, I always start with hair because they're facing the mirror. Hair is less intimate than makeup. Touching your face, you're in someone's face. I always start with hair no matter what. And that's a nice little warm up for them. I get them talking about, obviously about the shoot that we're doing, what they need to get out of it. We have already looked at their clothes when they come in. That's the first thing we do. We're just chit chatting. I start asking about their families, just like I would a salon client in my chair. And then by the time I finished their hair, we're moving on to makeup and I'm in their face. And it's amazing the conversations, how they change from the hair part to the makeup part. It goes deeper every time. Because that's an intimate thing to be touching someone's face. Like there's very few people that are allowed to touch your face, right? Dentists, doctors, estheticians. So it is a very intimate time, and we really get to that good connection level there. And I think that is so valuable, especially if I shoot boudoir. That is crucial. Like I wouldn't do a boudoir shoot without doing their hair and makeup first. But we get past kind of the surfacey stuff, and we get to the heart of it. And I do feel, once they leave, if we connect, there's certainly clients that you don't connect with. That's going to be a risk in any person to person business. But usually we end up friends, like we end up buddies, and it's a relationship that moves forward from that usually involves repeat business in some way. I don't know how I would do it otherwise. Now I do families in the fall, but I only take very few, and it's usually repeat clients that I've worked with before, who I do already know very well. And I don't offer hair and makeup to them just for time, because it's always going to be on a Saturday, weekends. It's an extra hour and a half to hour and a half. So I don't always offer that.
Sure.
Through family sessions. But usually they just want quick and dirty. They need their Christmas card.
They're trying to get their kids ready anyway. So
exactly. They don't really want to spend an hour with me and then have to go wrangle their family and then try to get them to a park or pond or whatever. But that's the only shoot I'm willing to do without doing the hair and makeup. Obviously men, that's different. I do shoot men for headshots, but I just think it's so valuable, that time together. Even if I was a photographer that didn't do hair and makeup, I think I would still spend that hour with the artist and the client talking about life while they did it.
Yeah. As a family photographer, don't frequently have that luxury or that ability. But every once in a while, I will have a session that gets interrupted by the necessary normal thing of like a baby needs to feed and nurse, and like I'll take a few photos while they're nursing, but I'm not going to just sit there and like paparazzi them while they're so instead, if there's other kids, maybe I'll go photograph them while that's happening. But if there aren't, I'll take the opportunity to like, great, you're sitting there nursing your baby, I'm going to sit here and like let's just chat a little bit. And there is something magical about those pauses where, because when the camera is pointed at someone, obviously there is a certain level for most of us of stress, like how do I look, what do I do with my hands, the whole thing. And so as soon as you set the camera down, there is like this almost visible relax. Yep, exactly. We both just dropped our shoulders, and you kind of can break that wall a little bit, which I think is, it's easier and harder for different photographers. And of course, it depends on the client too. But
Yes.
creating that space certainly puts you in the best potential position to do that.
Yes. And I also think that I try to let them know that they're going to be taken care of from the beginning. Like I always say, I'm going to pose you from, down to your pinky toe. I'm going to, every little ounce of you don't have to know what to do. You don't have to know what to wear, bring a bunch of stuff. I'll put it together for you. You're going to be taken care of. And especially for busy working moms, they're like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God, because I don't want to do it. I don't have time to do it. I don't, this isn't my wheelhouse. I'll let you handle it. And that to me is the ultimate compliment when they will allow me to, because that means they trust me. And that I don't think they would have that same level of trust if we didn't have the connection that we get. Even before the session, I make sure everyone talks to me on the phone. And I don't like to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you something that I've been doing for quite a while now that I got from you is after every phone call, I send a video.
Oh, yay.
And I did it yesterday, I think.
You're doing the double whammy. It's the phone call video 1-2 punch. I love it.
And they book. I mean, there's a rare chance that I've talked to them and sent them a video that they don't. The video I love it. Like it's the personal touch. I talk to them by their name. I talk about what we talked about on the phone. I give them a tour of the studio, a little video tour of the studio. And I love that. I love connecting with people in general, just because I think just from being a hairstylist and touching people all day and being up close and personal with people all day, I think that I would be very almost sad and lonely without that personal connection like that.
Yeah.
Like a virtual job would probably crush my soul.
Well, that's amazing. And I love hearing that is not only something that you've incorporated, but something that's really working. Tell me, just by way of inspiring the people out there who are like, whoa, that sounds like a ton of work. How much time, now that you've got it sort of dialed in, it sounds like you've been doing it for a while, how much time does that video take you to make and send from like the minute you get off the phone?
I have a rule that it's a first take. I'd never go past the first take. If I make a mistake, I just keep on going. I literally hang up the phone, I run up to the studio, and I do it. Because if I don't do it immediately, it loses all its power.
Yeah.
And the video itself is either, depending on what we talked about, it can be a minute to a minute and a half at the most. If it's longer than that, they're not going to watch it. Or they might, but they'll be annoyed by it. Like that's anything more than that, I think, is an imposition on their time. Because they've already given me a ton of their time on the phone. Not a ton, but more than most people would give in a day. But the little video, it is very rough. Like the first one I made, I sent to a couple of my photographer friends via text. And I was like, I am almost embarrassed to send this video because it is a rough cut. And they were just like, no, I can't believe you, they were proud of me for even doing it because they don't do anything like that. And I sent it. She messaged back, oh my gosh, the studio looks great. Everything looks great. I'll be, I'm going to hop on and book now. So it just is an extra touch.
Every single person listening would trade 90 seconds of their time. We'll round up and call it 5 minutes of their time for a session that is going to make them $1,000, $2,000, like whatever the price point there is. And so if you are sitting there listening and thinking like, oh, that sounds like yet another thing to add. This is a light lift. Like that is something worth trying. And I really do think, I was just talking the other day to somebody about the in-person sales process and the couple of things that I sometimes miss about it. And one of those is, it kind of comes down to this whole, you have to show it to sell it. I have worked really hard with the simple sales system to build in ways to show what it is that we are selling so that you can paint that picture for somebody. But in the interest of trying to streamline my workflow, make myself run a business that I can manage, I've given up some of my ability to do that. But these little videos, I truly believe, are like the modern way to communicate. And we consume so much video content these days. So getting on the phone, hearing somebody's voice, having a two-way call, and then making them a follow-up video where you're like, here's the space, like they can see it. You've shown it to them, no wonder you're booking so well. That's amazing.
Well, thanks. It really has improved things. I think that was one of the big changes I made. Small changes, actually. To me, that's not that big of a change. But it really made the biggest impact. And you're talking about in-person sales. I do in-person sales with, for sure, boudoir and glamour. Some of my families will do in-person sales. Some just don't have time, or they live an hour and a half away, or what. I don't force that on certain types of shoots. Headshots for men, no, they're not going to.
Doesn't help.
But most women, when I give the option, because I always give the option to everyone for headshots, glamour. I do some tween sessions that are fantastic, like confidence building sessions are amazing. I prefer that they do it in person. If they don't do it in person, then I do a Zoom reveal. But that is the reveal to me is the biggest gift. Like it is a payment in a way, just to see their face, to see themselves and, see, oh, wow, I am beautiful. That's me. Like, that's really me. I was there. I remember it. Like that to me is amazing. And I know with certain business models, you just don't have the time for it. And I'm grateful right now that I do have the time to do it still. And I hope that I can always include that because it is really impactful to me and to them. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny. It's funny that you raised that because that was actually the thing that somebody was like, do you miss seeing people see their photos for the first time? That is not the thing that I miss about in-person sales. I mean, I did. I loved it. I loved watching people sort of, it's like, it is very gratifying as an artist to see someone love your photos. But I think that when I go back to somebody's house a year later and like there are my photos on the wall and they're like, oh my God, we love, that's enough for me. Like I don't need the in-person reveal part. But I mean, again, like run a profitable, sustainable business that you love, not me. Like you have to run the business for you. So that sounds amazing. And since we are talking about business, let's talk a little bit about the before and after the makeup, like when you started doing hair and makeup with your clients and when you started working with clients that were more sort of aligned to what really lit you up.
Right.
Let's talk, and we don't have to talk specifically, but let's talk about money and sort of the way that your business operated from a business and like profitability standpoint.
Okay. Before, when I was doing the more shoot and burn style of photography, I was making enough in the fall to, pay for Christmas and a trip. That was usually my goal, or to buy a new lens, or, it was, the low thousands, we'll say. And then, add in a few other little things throughout the year that filled it in. It was definitely a supplemental income. It was something that I would or could live on. I still had a day job that I was full time.
Sure.
And then when I made the change over to doing work that I actually love and, working with clients on a different scale with IPS or in-person sales, I can live on that income now. I do still work in the salon 2 days a week because I love my clients and I'll always do hair. If I still have hands at work, I'll do hair. But I could live off of my photography business easily with no problems now, where I could have never done that before. So it was just the right change at the right time for me.
Yeah. And I think that I see this a lot when someone truly believes in what they're doing, when they find the thing where they're like, yep, this is impactful. This is meaningful. I know that this is going to, I'm going to give someone the, not only like the look with their hair and makeup, but the experience of that. And then I'm going to make these photos and they're going to walk out like a changed person. It helps you level up what you're willing to charge, how you're willing to ask your clients to show up. You're willing to direct and say, this is the way it works. Like, I'm not going to do this if we're not going to do hair and makeup first. All of those things ends up, it is, and I say this and I'm trying to spell it out and sort of break it down into pieces just because I think that especially for someone who is either newer in their business or they are feeling really burned out, when you're that close to it, it can be really hard to see like, what is wrong? I make good photos. And here I charge this like middle of the road price and nobody's going to pay it. Who are these people who are charging so much more? Sometimes it is a matter of looking, like taking a step back and being like, what am I doing that I love? What am I doing that I'm willing to like bet on and go to bat for? And I love your story because it really does illustrate that you were willing to kind of take a stand, even though it sounds like you were nervous about it in the beginning. And then as soon as you started doing that, it was like you found your, like that happy place.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot. And I tell you, one of the biggest compliments I received recently from a client was she said that I gave her the confidence to book a boudoir session because I was so confident in what I do and talking about what I do. And she's like, in the consultation, you knew exactly what you wanted to do, and you were very confident in what you had to offer. And she's like, you gave me the confidence to do it after all. And that was so like that was really touching. And I love to, if I can impart an ounce of confidence on any woman that walks in the studio, I have done my job.
That's amazing. And I don't doubt that you do a really great job of that. So tell me, or tell us, but me, I'm really curious. So I told you before we hit record, like, I can't do hair and makeup to save my life. My hair just does this.
It's bad.
And well, thank you. So I just let it do its thing. But if a client asked me to do their hair, I would like run out the door. But I totally get where you're coming from, that like there are things that maybe in order to sort of up my level of expertise, when I've got somebody, if I can answer a question for them or give them advice, that'd probably be a good kind of, tool to have in my toolbox. Do you feel like there are things that those of us who are not talented in that particular direction could learn from, what, without going to school, and making that our side hustle?
Well, I think that just like we help our clients with wardrobe selections, I know a lot of us will help families, pick out their wardrobe or give advice on that. It's the same thing, really. You're giving advice on things that are going to make their session successful. So simple things like telling clients not to wear very shimmery makeup because it can give very strange skin texture, especially if you're in a studio setting with lighting. It gives lots of hot spots. Really heavy eye makeup can cause a lot of problems in outdoor photography because it makes our eyes look very small and closed. I guess one good thing to think about is, what are you spending a lot of time retouching? Mm-hmm. Those are the things that you can help educate your client on. Even if you don't do hair and makeup, you don't, do it for yourself. There's, some very simple tips and tricks that you can learn to help your client get it right. And you can help them in person. It wouldn't be a bad idea to keep a few Q-tips in your bag or some hairspray for flyaways, just a few little odds and ends to keep on hand to help you. Like if you are in a park shooting someone or at their, house or wherever you would go to shoot, just to have a few little things on hand, almost like a first aid kit for beauty, just to help with little fiascos that can happen, because it's going to happen inevitably. You're going to have someone with a big smudge of something on their face or lipstick on their teeth or, those types of things that can really easily be avoided. But I think it's kind of important that we understand all parts of what we do, just so that even if we could better communicate with, if you are using a hair and makeup artist, if you understand hair and makeup even a little, you can communicate more clearly with your artist. You can communicate more clearly with your client to let them know what they should and shouldn't do. It's going to give a better experience for your client overall, either way you're going. So I really do think it's kind of important for all of us to learn, even just the barest little nugget about these things, just to help with our own shoots, to help our clients.
It kind of comes back to what you were just saying about confidence. I think that when we are able to give direction, and I'm not going to say advice necessarily, but direction on, if somebody says, is there anything that I should know about my hair and makeup, or should I go get my makeup done before the session or something like that, being able to sort of give them a knowledgeable answer that says something along the lines of, you're welcome to, show up as you are, I want you to be comfortable, but if you're interested, here are some of the benefits. Here are two, makeup artists that I recommend. Here are three things that you should make sure that they know they shouldn't do, like here, that sort of advice. Because it really does come down to your confidence is infectious to your clients. They become confident. They feel willing to like move forward and make a decision. And the more of that lifting that you can do for them and say, you don't have to go research who to hire as a makeup artist. I've got a recommendation for you.
Yep. I think that just taking care of them, that, you're the expert, you're the professional, they're in your hands to take care of, and you know what you're doing. That's, you want to come off as competent, and, obviously you want them to trust you and like what you have to say and do. And, it's a big responsibility sometimes to have that kind of trust and respect from a client. And you want to earn it, and you want to make them happy.
Seriously. Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. So Amanda, I know that you are in the process of working on some educational materials so that you can actually help other photographers. You do some in-person mentoring. So if you happen to be in the Charlotte area, that would be great. But for everyone else around the world, where can they follow you, keep in touch with you? Because I think that once you start to, I see this as something that a lot of photographers would love insight and help with. And so let everybody know where they can find you.
Okay. My website is my name, amandadudzik.com, and that's Amanda, and my last name is Dudzik. It's pronounced just like it looks. Instagram, I'm Amanda Dudzik _photography. And I am going to come out with a course to help photographers understand the basics of hair and makeup, to give photographers the confidence to be able to cover if their hair and makeup artist were to cancel or not show up, or, it could make you money. You can make you extra money. And I think we all like money. We all like to make money. So there's just a lot of reasons and benefits to learn those things. And I want to I'm putting together a comprehensive class and an online course to show the basics, some little tricks and tips that look like $1 million on film, but were easy to do in person, and ways you can change up a look really quickly and give more variety to your shoots. That's coming at the end of the year.
Coming soon. Working on it now. I love it. Well, that's amazing. And I'll put your links in the show notes. And if you've got anything before this drops and you want to send it to me, I'll link that in the show notes as well. So if you're listening to this and you're curious, be sure to check the show notes. But Amanda, thank you so much. Good luck with all of it. And yeah, one of these days, perhaps we'll get together for coffee.
I would love that. It was so great to be here. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of This Can't Be That Hard. I'll be back same time, same place next week. In the meantime, you can find more information about this episode, along with all the relevant links, notes, and downloads at thiscan'tbethathard.com/learn. If you like the podcast, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Even better, share the love by leaving a review in iTunes. And as always, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic week.